Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Stefano Perucchi. I'm partner at the law firm Keller Carrar, which is the second largest law firm in Switzerland. And I'm also executive board member of the Swiss LegalTech Association. Together with Marco Farina, I'm co-heading the Ticino chapter, and it's a pleasure for me today to welcome you all at our second online event with the name Blockchain, Legal Implication, Opportunity and Risk. Let me first spend a few words about Swiss LegalTech Association. Swiss LegalTech Association is a non-profit association which offers a framework for lawyers, entrepreneurs, investors, academics, and professionals to create value together. We support the legal industry by providing a better understanding of the legal technology market, and we foster the development of Switzerland as a hub for legal technology. It's a pleasure for me to introduce this second meeting, which is part of our series, Swiss LegalTech Talks 2022, organized in collaboration with Logol, which is a company, a Swiss provider of cutting-edge technology solution. And let me thank you, Logol, for the support to these events series. Why a series of events facing on topics like artificial intelligence, blockchain, and automation? Well, there is no doubt that the digital transformation in the professional legal sector will redefine the business scenario, and we wanted to work closely with Logol to face this challenge, create value, and together gain the benefit of new technological solutions by delivering a free series of online events about new technologies applied to legal and professional sectors. Today, we will dive into blockchain technology, together with Irina Lebedeva, Lars Lichting, and Jörn Erbgut. Let me first introduce our moderator, Irina Lebedeva, who is product led at Guild of Guardians Immutable X. Irina has been active in the startup scene for more than a decade now, and since 2018, she specialized in NFT and crypto. She's product manager at Guild of Guardians Immutable X, a crypto unicorn company that partnered with TikTok and GameStop. Now give the floor to Irina so that she can introduce the two speakers of today. Irina, the floor is yours. Thank you very much and have a good event.
Thank you, Stefano. I will be glad to. So our first speaker is Lars. Lars works in the legal department of the Swiss Federal Banking Commission for 5 years and as a partner at KPMG for around 10 years. Since 2018, he has been a board member of various fintech companies, and his areas of expertise are technology, data protection, tax laws. Lars is a specialist in anti-money laundering legislation applied to new technologies and also data protection. Our second speaker is Jörn. Jörn has a background in computer science as well as law. He works as a software developer. He worked as a product manager and CTO for legal information systems in Germany and also Switzerland. Since 2016, he's an independent consultant on data protection and blockchain. He's a lecturer of various Swiss universities, and he's also head of technology insights at Geneva Macro Labs. So since today we will talk about blockchain, we will be talking about data and about assets, because basically what blockchain is, it's a database where the information is immutable and verifiable. And digital asset ownership is one of the biggest innovations provided by the blockchain technology. Next slide, please. So the first topic is data protection in the framework of the GDPR. As mentioned, hashes of data that are stored on the blockchain cannot be deleted, and everyone in the internet can have access to this data at any point in time. So the question is, how does it work in accordance with the right to be forgotten?
So thank you, Irina. So the GDPR is a successor of from the previous data protection directive of the European Union, and it basically provides data subjects with certain rights and has certain obligations and restrictions of the processing of personal data. And the definition of personal data is very broad. So even IP addresses and possibly Bitcoin addresses are considered personal data, in at least in some in some respects, and under certain conditions. And it also applies well outside the European Economic Area. So it's direct law in the European Economic Area, but it also applies to controllers and processors being outside of the European Union, like Switzerland, under certain circumstances. So it's something you need to be aware of, and it comes with hefty fines. So we have to check, well, how can we comply with GDPR? And you already mentioned the immutability and the right to be forgotten. And if we can have the next slide, please, we will see that. Yep, thank you. This is the most prominent issue of GDPR and blockchain. Of course, the immutability of blockchains is not an accident. It is something which is paid for quite highly. The cost for blockchain is quite a bit higher than just operating a database. So we need to see it has a purpose to be immutable. And this is a picture of the law library of Zurich. And libraries has been a way to provide immutability in the past. You can always destroy a book, no question. But since books are distributed worldwide and are stored and stored in libraries where they are preserved, where they are protected in those temples, it is actually what we used to use to provide immutability for our knowledge. And now, since everything goes digital, this goes away. A publisher who offers an online service can always change something. So we need something new to provide immutability in the digital age. So it's not an accident, and it's well justified. And so you have to balance the right to be forgotten and immutability. And when you have the sometimes some information should just not be stored on a blockchain because there's no justification to make it immutable. But other information might very well be stored on a blockchain, particularly the proofs of some information or some information that are justified to be public internally. So you need to consider this. You need to reduce the amount of data stored on blockchain, but the right to be forgotten is not an absolute right and has to be balanced with other interests as well.
It's an interesting topic because this is something that happened to many NFTs where the NFTs are in the blockchain, but the digital file is not on the blockchain. So basically when people are buying NFTs, they don't really buy that asset because it can be changed at any point in time. But that's a very interesting topic. Let's move on to the next one. I think an interesting question here is who is the data controller in the blockchain and what are the obligations placed on the data controllers by the GDPR?
So the basic question behind the controller is who is responsible? So you have an ecosystem with many people operating nodes, providing services, developing software, sending transactions, and the question is who is responsible in a distributed environment? And the old thinking of data processing is that there is always a controller who is controlling everything. And this is, of course, not the case in a distributed environment. This is already not the case in many environments where you have app stores, where you have apps, servers, standards, etc. So this is something that GDPR is not really good at mapping. So the question is, who is a controller? And the CNIL, the French Data Protection Authority, in 2018 already said it depends. And in my opinion, you should really distinguish between the different levels. So you have the blockchain level, and the blockchain is made, particularly a public blockchain, is made in a public permissionless blockchain is made in a way that nobody really controls it. Then you have smart contracts that might be controlled by some private key. And then there's the transaction level, and transactions are always controlled by those who commit the transaction because they have to sign it. And in my opinion, you have to distinguish the different levels, and you always have a controller on the transaction level. You often have a controller on a smart contract level, on a blockchain level. If it is a permissioned consortium blockchain, I would also say you have a controller on the blockchain level. In a permissionless public environment, you might not always have a controller on the blockchain level, but I don't think it hurts the principle of accountability, which is an important principle of the GDPR.
Yeah, permissionless is a very trendy word right now. I think it's very useful to explain to our audience how does it work from a blockchain perspective, how this controlling mechanism works with the nodes specifically.
So even in a permissioned environment, the idea of blockchain is that no single person can control the information other than the person who actually sends it to the blockchain, who commits the transaction. Of course, this is controlled by one person who signs a transaction, maybe several, if you have a multi-sig transaction. But there you have specific control. But the idea behind blockchain is that you don't hand over control to one entity. And basically, this is what GDPR accepts and says, well, the responsibility is where the control is. And if there is nobody having control, then you can't make people responsible for what they can't control.
So an example, a person downloads MetaMask, he has his seed phrases, and in order to complete any transaction, he has to sign it with his MetaMask wallet. Is it controlled or it's not controlled in that case of a non-custodial wallet?
So the person who is signing the transaction is controlling the transaction. And then, of course, you can distinguish, is this person do it in a purely private, for a purely private purpose? Then the CNIL says the person would be in control, but it is the household exemption. Whereas when you have a company or somebody doing for business, it is clear the case that this person or this entity is in control.
Interesting.
So it is not the developer of MetaMask who is in control, and it's not the node who receives the transaction who is in control. This is the opinion of the CNIL. This is my opinion, but there is no legal certainty at that point yet, because we don't have a judgment of the European Court of Justice. We don't have some uniform opinion of the EDPB, the European Data Protection Board. So there is still quite a bit of legal uncertainty there.
So basically, for blockchain apps, the rule of thumb is not to store any private keys and always allow the user to sign the transactions. So in that case, a non-custodial wallet is a way to go, like we discussed in the example of MetaMask, for example. Let's move on to the next. Yeah.
If maybe I can, because I find very interesting what John is saying. I was thinking of 2-3 examples which may be of interest also for the audience. One of the examples, for example, is Axie Infinities, that we know this is a play-to-earn game. And Axie Infinity has its own blockchain, which is running. So here, by hearing Jörn, the question that pop up on my mind was, hey, if Axie Infinities has its own blockchain, which is running, and they are controlling this blockchain, then probably they are data controller for this blockchain, and therefore they also do the data register, and all the information which are stored in this blockchain are subject to GDPR. But on the other hand, if they use a public blockchain, which they not because of the problematic with the gas fees, they don't fall within the GDPR, and they have less duties to apply. So I was wondering if Axie Infinity is doing a GDPR for their running blockchain or not. And to make it clear, I was just thinking that I have a client who has his own blockchain and is doing transaction for e-commerce on his own blockchain. And they have to call him now after this meeting and tell him, look, we have to do GDPR because you're the controller of this blockchain.
Yeah. If you have your own blockchain, you're as accountable, as responsible as if you have your own database. So it's not a difference there. And it looks like public blockchains, permissionless blockchains, incur less responsibility, but only to the point where there is less control. And to shift the control and responsibility to the user only works to a certain extent. So if you have MetaMask like a common tool to send transactions, it's fine. But if you have a proprietary client, for example, of the computer game that sends information to a public blockchain, it might be already different, because then you would say it is basically the computer game server who has control over this sending. But it could also be combined. So, for example, you're posting something on Facebook, then Facebook is controller and you are also controller. You're joint controller because you're posting it on Facebook and you're responsible for the content of the information, not Facebook, because Facebook doesn't know what you're posting. They might, when they check it, etc., there might be some responsible later on, but in principle, for the information you post, it's you're controlling it. Facebook is collecting a lot of other information as well about your usage, etc., and then they are controller. So this is already a mixed situation when you don't use blockchain but use common apps, and GDPR is not really made for these kind of situations. GDPR knows joint control, but that's about it, and it's not really easy to distinguish. For Facebook, there has been some European Court of Justice cases, so we have a bit more clarity there, but it is, in general speaking, it is quite difficult to determine the controller of an app in a distributed environment. For example, take the COVID app, the COVID tracking app. So it is distributed by one party. It's available in the App Store. Apple and Google are providing certain functions and have certain controls over data collection. And then and somebody's asking you to show the app, for example, then they have a certain amount of control. And it's very difficult to determine who is really controlling the data processing. And so this situation that we are faced with blockchain is not really a novel situation for GDPR. It's just another situation where the simple model, the simplistic model from the 1980s of having a computing center and somebody who is asking the computing center to do some computing is not just applicable anymore. And we are having difficulties to map the current situation to the simplistic model of the GDPR. And this is, we need to have some model, some rules, how to distinguish the different control and responsibility of the different parts. And this is what I'm suggesting with this 3-tier model, seeing, looking at the different levels separately. And then it starts to make sense for me. Otherwise, you say, well, there are so many people involved, and suddenly you'd say all of them have control, but actually none of them has, or only some very limited people have.
I think that's very useful information. Thank you, Jorn. Also, there is a tricky question, because there is one situation when the data is in Europe, but what if the data is transferred to another country where there is no regulation or no decent regulation? What are the risks involved in those transactions?
So when the GDPR was conceived, and even before, with the Data Protection Directive, there has always been the risk that we have tight regulation in the EU, but then people just transfer the data to some other country, and there is no regulation, and then they do whatever they want with this data, and they wanted to avoid this. So they put quite strict rules to the transfer to third countries, and say, well, if we consider one country to have an adequate protection, then it's okay, like Switzerland. And if we don't see this adequate protection, then the transfer is very restricted. So, for example, to the US, and the European Commission tried to just pretend that the data is well protected in the US, and they have had safe harbor. Then the European Court of Justice said in Schrems 1, no, we don't believe it. Then they recreated the same thing with Privacy Shield, and the European Court of Justice said, no, still not. And this was Schrems 2. And now they're creating Transatlantic Data Privacy Framework, which might be Safe Harbor 3.0. We don't know yet the details. And if so, there might be Schrems 3, with the European Court of Justice saying, well, still not okay. But we have to see. And the issue here is, when you have a blockchain, you have nodes in many countries, and you don't want to control where the nodes are. And it's particularly when you have a public blockchain. And but this, again, is not a novel problem. So if you publish something in the internet, it is immediately available worldwide, with the exception maybe of some countries like China, but in most countries it's available. So it could be considered a transfer to third countries. And already quite some time ago, the European Court of Justice said in 2003, this is not what we want. We don't want to restrict any kind of publishing because of this third country rule. So if something is justified to be public, then it can go to a third country. And this is basically the content of the ruling of Lindquist, of the case Lindquist in 2003. And if you apply it to current internet, to public blockchains, you'd see that if things are public and you have the right, the justification to have it public, then you don't have to be concerned about third countries. Again, this is something, I think there's a good argument for that, but I have not seen a judgment of a court following this argument. So there is, again, legal uncertainty here, as in many areas of blockchain and GDPR.
I think it's very tricky for a user, because the user cannot know where the nodes are stored. And I think we'll see new regulators here, because again, like, how does a common user check if the blockchain is secure or not? Should he use Ronin? Like, we know what happened with Axie Infinity when $500 million were basically stolen from user accounts. So I think it's a very interesting place for regulation. Thank you, Jorn. That was very interesting. Let's move on to digital ownership. Since we're talking about digital ownership, we're talking about NFTs, of course. Lars, if you could present us, what are these non-fungible tokens? And it's interesting to get the perspective of a non-crypto native user, so like everyone like us, and to get a legal perspective as well.
Yep. So we decided to present NFT, since it's becoming a little bit a buzzword. I think everybody of us have read of on the news of some NFTs sold for millions of dollars, but maybe we don't know exactly what is an NFT. So I would like to start by presenting a little bit what are NFTs, and then we can discuss what are the business cases and, of course, the legal implication. So for those who have not don't know exactly what an NFT is, NFT stands for non-fungible token, and it's, as the word says, a token which is not interchangeable. So every token is different from another. We can have are pieces where we have just one token, but normally in NFTs we have different tokens with the same arguments. You see here on the presentation these little robots, which are, however, made in a different way. And here you can see every NFTs can have properties. And here as an example of these properties, so you can see that only, I think, 12% of the NFTs of this series have an orange background. And the point is that there is no NFTs which has the same properties. All NFT are different than the other. And that's also the reason why the NFTs are numbered. If you make this a little bit, I mean, it's unfortunately a little bit small, but you see there is also a number for every NFTs. And of course, we start with the number 1, and then we go up to the number of how many NFT are done. If we go
and also, I think there are collections, because in NFTs, there is this understanding that there is a Genesis collection, which is very close to the launch of the whole NFT collection. And then there are early adopter and other collections. Sometimes they call them Genesis, sometimes they call them founder collections. So I think you can also see that note. So it basically gives you an idea that this is a super valuable part of the collection. These are the first ones issued.
Yeah, exactly. And there are also some NFTs which are more rare than the others. So the rare NFT, of course, has it's more valuable than the common NFT.
And I think it's very tricky here, because sometimes when they say rare, in NFTs, they can be epic, they can be legendary. So rare is less rare than epic, and epic is less rare than legendary. So I think it's important to understand those notions correctly.
Yeah, it's very gaming notions. I think interesting is also to know that the image that you see on your NFTs, where is this image stored? Because we haven't said this is a little bit technical, but storing an image on the blockchain itself is very expensive. If you want to transfer a token which has the image on the blockchain, it can cost you really a lot of money. So normally the NFTs have a sort of link which ping to the image which is stored in another platform on a hosting provider.
So usually it's
Sorry,
IPFS. Usually it's an IPFS link, right? Are we talking about the IPFS?
Yeah, exactly. And these are the metadata that you can have it stored centralized or even decentralized. And that is something that you have to know, because if you buy an NFT which has the image stored on a centralized server, and the guys who sold you the NFT and is paying for the central server is not paying the fees anymore, you have the risk that the server is turned off and you don't have your NFT anymore. So your image will point to a 404 error, I don't know what. So there is some also technical issues that you have to know. I was saying about NFT, but normally NFTs are linking to a decentralized protocol where we have more than one hosting provider which is stored the image, and that should solve the problem. But of course, we are speaking here of digital images which are stored somewhere. Mm-hmm. And then the next slide.
I'm just thinking right now, do you think this should be regulated? Like, because the users don't understand all the ins and outs in terms of the storages, in terms of the rarities. Do you think there should be more governance in terms of making it more unified? Because right now, as I said, there is Genesis collection is the same as a founder. Early adopter is the same as another one. So I think it's really hard for the user to navigate those.
Look, honestly, I would at this moment I would be against more regulation. Look what is happening on the financial markets, which are markets where we have years and years and years of history. We have now so much regulation that it's very difficult to find an innovation inside the market. Now, NFT is something new. There are some risks, yes, but there is also a lot of innovation. And I think that at this stage, we really need to have all the provider find something new, new way to do the NFT, new way to to market it. We are still a little bit in this fantastic modus where everybody can do something and really come out with new ideas, and we should not kill this. Maybe in the next years, once that we have explored all this environment and we have also seen what are the risks, and we better understand the risk and we can start to regulate the risk, okay, but honestly, not today.
Makes sense.
Okay, then NFT are stored on the blockchain, so I think this is easy. With the blockchain, we can transfer it. We can make this NFT unique, and we can be sure to transfer this NFT to another person without having a copy in my possession. So when you receive an NFT from which is through a blockchain, you can be sure that the people who send you the NFT, the only thing that can have is a picture of the NFT, but they don't have the NFT itself. And the last slide about what is our NFTs is the one. Yes, go ahead. Okay, about the fact that we can trade these NFTs. No, now you're a little bit you're a little bit too fast. Thank you. We can trade these NFTs. So there are some marketplace. This is a picture of OpenSea, which is the biggest marketplace for NFTs. So you can buy it, you can sell it, and since this is on the blockchain, all the information are recorded on the blockchain, and you can really see the story of this NFT. So from when it was mint, when it was sold the first time, sold the second time, you can see the price going up, the price going down. You can see when it was given for free. I mean, everything is available, and everyone can really see what is happening with these NFTs on the market.
But we need to see that all these transactions are anonymous. So I think the question here is, for example, I can launch an NFT and then you, Lars, will buy it for 100 Ethereum, which is $400,000. There's a lot of sayings like the whole NFT market is basically a big scam, because there are accounts selling NFTs to another accounts, basically booming the market and then leaving the projects. And even if you look at statistics, actually OpenSea has really good, because you can see statistics of a project in terms of the price. And most of them have a graph like this. So basically there is a boom and then it goes down. So how do you think we can mitigate this issue? Or again, this is a wild, wild west, as you said before, and we just need to let it be. And then maybe in a year or so, we come and build something on it.
Look, this is a problem that does not have only the NFT market. If you have seen the discussion that Elon Musk is having with Twitter, is exactly the same. Shall we identify the Twitter user and shall be sure that this is a real Twitter user and is not a bot or is not a fake user or whatever. So that is a problem for the society, for the digital society. And I think, but that is my personal view, that the solution for this problem is digital identity. And that sometimes, some days in the future, every one of us, we will have his digital identity and we will be able to trade NFTs, to write posts on Twitter, on Facebook or whatever, by recognizing that we are a human being through the digital identity, which will then open a lot of questions for GDPR. And if we do it on the blockchain, I mean, all the questions we discussed before. But I think we will come back to this element, because I have an example with digital identity later on. Maybe you also asked me about the regulation. And regulation for tokens is quite, at least in Switzerland, is something where we are quite aware and we have clear rules, I would say. We know that there are payment token, utility token, security token. So payment token is a mean of payment. You have to apply for money laundering. Utility token is not a payment, it's just a sort of voucher, it's not regulated. Security tokens, well, as the name says, you have to apply for securities law. Now, NFTs, since NFTs are non-fungible tokens, they cannot be a securities per definition. And by not being a securities, there are a lot of laws which does not apply on NFTs. So NFTs are really seen a little bit like an art piece. The point is that NFT are much more than only an art piece. If we have seen with the NFTs we showed before, so the Bored Ape, the Bored Ape is a sort of club, an exclusive club, where if I have a Bored Ape, I have some rights. So I was able to receive an airdrop of the ape coin, and I was able to receive a land in the Bored Ape metaverse. And now, if I'm receiving so much value from my NFTs, then maybe we can discuss. But what is there any financial right also tied with this token? So is this not a securities? The point is that since the NFT is unique, you cannot trade it, because every NFT is different and any NFT has a different price. So by using NFTs, we are able to find also a way to not use the securities law and creating something that may be a financial asset, but is not subject to securities law, because every NFT is different and NFT has a different price. So the buyer has also to look at the NFT and decide, okay, how much I'm ready to spend for these NFTs. It's a little bit like purchasing expensive watches, real estate, or I don't know what. I mean, every good has a different value, and I have to look at this different value. So normally when we do NFTs, if we do it right, you can be quite confident that you don't breach any law. But you have to do it right. So you have to avoid to do NFT without number, having NFTs which are all the same, then they are not NFT anymore, and you should fall within the securities law.
You touched upon so many use cases of NFTs. It's interesting because most of people, when they think of NFTs, they think of art, right? But now we see gaming NFTs. We saw a trend of profile pictures, basically people buying $10,000 avatars. This is the new generation. So instead of buying a watch or buying like a luxury goods, they're buying those profile pictures. And you also mentioned NFTs as identity. And I think this is something Vitalik Buterin was talking for many, many years. He sees that there will be a new type of NFT that will represent not just monetary value, but a sense of identity and participation. Because what I see in crypto projects is that one of the biggest reasons people are active in one community is the community itself. So it's a social thing. But NFTs are social. It's not just an asset. This is why they're unique and people associate themselves with it. So most likely, yes, we will see very different assets emerge from what we see right now. And this is what you're saying. This is very, very early. People think NFTs is already maybe late to go and buy. No, but it's still very early stage. And when I started with NFTs, it was 2018. And I thought I was late because there was already like Axie and all of that. So coming up. So I thought, yeah, that was too late. And now it's
very early.
Yeah.
Look, what I can tell you is that I'm really seeing also professionally a lot of projects where we use NFTs for something which has less to do with art. And I mean, I have it also in the presentation. I have a case, for an example, where we have done an NFT of expensive watches. We are trying to do NFT for real estate. Doing NFTs for real estate is very, very complicated because of the legal form that you need to respect to transfer the real estate. So if I want to sell the real estate, at least in Switzerland, I need a notary. So I need a document notarized. And I cannot do a notarized document on the blockchain. So how can I transfer the real estate assets through the blockchain thanks to NFT if I don't have the legal form, the proper legal form? And another business case that we are doing is we are trying to do a token of an art piece, a middle-aged art piece, so from 15 under, and we tokenize this art piece in different tokens so that we can create liquidity for this art piece, which is the value is 5 million. So if you want to sell this in a one piece, you have to find a lot of buyer. And we try to sell it in small pieces so that everybody can have a small piece of this art piece. And that would be a securities if you just take, let's say, 100 tokens and you say, okay, this art piece is divided in 100 token, and you have one token which represents 1/100th of a Picasso painting. That is a security. But if you say, no, that token is representing the right corner of the painting, that is not a security anymore, because the token representing the right corners maybe is less valuable than the token representing an image in the middle. And again,
how does it work with real goods? Because a digital marketplace, it's easy. You have an NFT, you set a price, somebody buys it. What if I have a Patek Philippe watch, I want to sell it, and it's tokenized, so the watch comes with an NFT. If I sell it, how do I prove that I own it still? Because I can lose a watch or something can happen. I think that's an interesting topic.
Yeah. Here you have to do also a legal agreement between the issuer of the token, which must be also the owner of the watch, and the token holder. So I always say to my client, when you purchase a token, the token is just a unit of account. It's nothing else as a unit of account. What the token really represents is written in the term and condition, or in the agreement which is behind the token. So you always have to read the white paper, the prospectus, the term and condition to understand what you're purchasing. And in this case, if you want to purchase an NFT which represents part of a watch, then we shall have this agreement where the issuer says, okay, I am the owner of the watch. I will be responsible and liable for the deposit of the watch. I will take care that I have the insurance, that I put the watch in a safe and all this stuff. But I recognize to the token holder that they have a co-ownership on the watch. And normally we say that if you want to purchase the watch, you can purchase the watch by purchasing all the NFTs, for example. You purchase all the NFTs like a puzzle, you put the watch together, you come to me, you show me that you have all the NFT, I give you the watch. Or we say that we put a mechanism which indicate a price in advance, and if someone come and want to purchase this price, I have already agreed when I purchase the token that at this sell price, the third party can purchase the watches, and I will receive my part of the proceeds of the sale of the watches. So that's really an agreement between the owner and issuer of the NFTs and the token holder.
I see. So do we have to involve the brand in this process to verify that this is, for example, the real watch or something like that?
No, but of course, this is a matter of trust. That was a point, for example, for the Middle Age painting, because we are speaking about a painting of 5 million, and falsification. There are a lot of false paintings in this from the Middle Age. So what we did is that we put all the certificates stating that this is a real painting from the Middle Age, and this is the value, etc., etc. We are going to, because we are not issuing the token now, we are going to do an hash and put the hash of these documents inside the token, so that the token owner has the proof that this painting is a real one. And if at the end of the story the painting is a fake, okay, then you can act against the issuer. So that is also why, you cannot do this kind of project if you use a company from the BVI or in another offshore jurisdiction. You have to be in a jurisdiction where there is some legal certitude, like Switzerland.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one. What if I like an NFT and I decide to make a T-shirt with it? Because basically somebody bought this image, right? How does it work right now with the NFT ownership?
That is a question of copyrights, because honestly, if I purchase a Bored Ape, and I think there is someone who has a Bored Ape and then did a T-shirt with his Bored Ape on the T-shirt, technically speaking, the right to use the image doesn't belong to the token owner, but to Logol, so the issuer of the creators of the Bored Ape. So he should have asked Google Apps to use the right to use the image to put on the T-shirt. If he hasn't done this, then Google App will have the rights to claim the revenues that he's receiving by using the image that he has purchased, because normally with NFT you just purchase the token but not the use of the image, not the copyright of the image. That is something that I think, I mean, unless in Switzerland, I don't remember if it's 70 or 100 years, you have to wait until you have the free usage of the image. So that is something that maybe many purchaser of an NFT is not clear. There is some legislation which apply, and copyright legislation is, I would say, the first one where you have to be a little bit careful, because it's not that because you have this image that you can also use the image. There are some rules that you have to follow.
So what is the right somebody actually purchases with an NFT besides the control over the token? Is there some rights there?
Yes, but you have to look it on the term and normally on the term and condition on the white paper when you purchase the token. Again, I could do, look, let's say that I have a painting and I do an NFT of this painting, one NFT of this painting, and I'm selling the NFT, and you purchase it. And then you come to me and you say, oh, Lars, I have the NFT, please give me the painting. And I can tell you, but look, the NFT I sold you is just for allowing you to have the image of the painting, not the ownership.
Okay.
Read the new white paper, what is on it.
So
I could even do the other way around and say, this token represents the ownership, and if you buy it, you can come to me and ask me to give you back the painting. So you really have to read the term and condition of the issuance.
Okay, so if it's in a term of condition that you have some kind of a license, so the NFT presents a license that you may use it for certain purposes, that you may print your own T-shirt, but you may not sell 1,000 T-shirt or whatever is written there. How can you be sure that the person who sold you the NFT still holds the right? So, because if the chain of rights is broken somewhere, then they cannot transfer what they don't have.
Yeah, look, you're right, but this is not a blockchain problem. This is a usual problem in the copyright law. So I just done an agreement yesterday where we purchase, we didn't purchase, we are using a brand, and the company who's giving us the brand has to confirm in the agreement that they can give us the brand, and that if someone is suing us because we're using this brand, they will protect us. And this has nothing to do with blockchain, of course.
Okay.
So in this case, it's the same.
Okay, so for example, we know this issue with, for example, software licenses. So you can sell used software licenses under certain conditions, and then it's always difficult to be sure that the software license is still a valid license that can be transferred, or if they are still people keep on using the software, and or it has already been transferred to other people, so you're not really getting a license. So basically, NFTs could help there to get more certainty, not perfect certainty, but more certainty in having a genuine license that is still existing.
Yeah, I agree. That's why also, I was saying we're just in the beginning of the NFTs. So I think we are starting to see NFTs in the artworks, in the art world. But honestly, I think NFT has a much wider use in gaming, in digital identity, in events, in software, etc., etc., etc. Fully agree. And if we go just very quickly on the slides again, where I presented some cases, you see it here very, very quickly. This is a case of the British Museum, which have done some NFTs of their painting, and they're selling the NFTs of the painting of the British Museum. But of course, if I purchase these NFTs, it's not that I am the owner of the painting, and I am even not the owner of the image, because if I do a T-shirt with the image on the T-shirt, the British Museum will come to me and say, "Give me the money back, because I have the right to use this image." Then the next case that we have on the next slide is the real estate, which I had already discussed before, so I will not look at this. And the next one, I think, is the digital identity. Let's go. Yes, the next one was a digital identity, which for me is maybe the most interesting case, because I'm quite convinced that in the next year we will need a digital identity. I mean, the world is really going digital, and without a digital identity, there will be a lot of formalism and a lot of things that we cannot do. And NFTs is the best solution for creating digital identity. And if we do a digital identity on a decentralized blockchain, well, honestly, I mean, there will be an enormous consequences also for the society, because we will really able to use our identity also, for example, to vote for election, knowing that nobody can tricks at this election anymore.
Yep.
So these things.
Concerning this identity, I have a question. Of course, we know the EU is preparing the EIDAS revision with a European identity. Switzerland is, after the public vote, is preparing a new approach. Both look into self-sovereign identity, where you have standards like DID, decentralized identity, from the World Wide Web Consortium, but they are not using NFTs. And actually, I don't know why do I need something that I can transfer? I don't want to transfer my identity. It's my identity. I might have several identities, so to avoid tracking, to have my privacy preserved, so I can act with a different identity from home, for work, or for whatever. And if I'm in a computer game, I can use a different identity, so people can connect what I do with different identities, and I can disclose different amount of information in different contexts. But I'm not completely sure why we need NFTs for that. We should use blockchain, but not NFTs, maybe?
I think we're using tokens for governance right now. So basically, people who own the tokens, they're able to vote. And it's still very early. Governance is a very new term, and the teams are just starting to apply that. There are a few easy solutions, such as Snapchat, where everybody who owns tokens can do the voting. But again, this is super early. If NFTs are early, this is even earlier than that. Yeah. And I think we can touch upon one interesting use case, which is the music NFTs, which is one of the trends right now. Honestly, when NFTs emerged in terms of profile pictures, I didn't understand why would anybody buy a picture that he can see on the internet, right? But then people kind of started to have this collector vibe, and will the same happen to music NFTs? Because again, I'm skeptical. If you can stream the music, why would you want to buy a music NFT?
That's a good question. But I think what we are seeing is that the people like to have something unique, that I am the only owner of this good or asset or whatever. And that's as a market. And yes, I think that NFTs will be still used also in the future to because they allow this unicity of something that we have lost with the digital market. So in the digital era, we could copy everything, copy all the image, copy all the music, all the video, etc., etc., etc. With NFTs, we can try to stop this, and if we want to create something unique or in small copies, we can do it, and this is still have a value.
Perfect. I think we had a question in the chat about the market going down. I will read the question. Stablecoin Luna and Terra dropped dramatically, 90% in a couple of days. Coinbase platform lost 23%. Crypto market crashed in a very short time frame. Is blockchain community aware and ready, basically, I think, to overcome these challenges? I will start answering this because the market can fall 50% more. And usually when the market is going down, it doesn't make any sense for crypto projects to do anything because they will follow the same trend as everybody else. But at that time, usually what we see emerging is meaningful products, because what happened? Right now, all the population of the crypto projects are crypto native speculators. So they came in to invest and then derive a lot of value from their investments. But in order for this to be sustainable, we need a real user base, 1 billion users, like, for example, 1 billion gamers that play a sustainable economy, right? Because Axie Infinity is not a game. It's not a game for the gamers. It's basically a very fake concept where people play and they get paid. So basically they replace this game with work, and they replace work with this game. So I think right now, once we start to have these first projects that have this sustainable loop, like a game that has 1 billion gamers that like the game, but they also participate in the crypto economy, the markets will go up 1000x times more. But again, right now we're in this phase where I think nobody can do anything.
Yeah, maybe if I'm allowed, honestly, for those who are in the crypto space since some years, it's nothing new. We have seen this in the past. And maybe as I was saying, we need some innovation, and we need to have people trying some innovation in this market. That's what's happened with Terra and Luna. Honestly, they did a mess. We are all aware of it. And a lot of people lost a lot of money, for sure. But this is also necessary to grow. So I think it is part of the evolution. The cryptocurrency is a market which learn from their mistakes. We have seen that crypto is much more than just speculation, and I'm quite convinced in some year we will be better. We will come back even stronger than then, with few good coins and not so many coins which are only done for speculation purposes.
I think that's a wonderful conclusion of this event today. Thank you, Joran. Thank you, Lars. It's been a pleasure talking to you about these matters. Yeah, I think we're ready to wrap up.
Yes, thank you very much to Lars, thank you to Jörn, and thank you to you, Irina, for moderating this very interesting debate. I'm sorry, frankly, to interrupt because the debate was very interesting. We have seen also a question coming from the floor, and people are interested into this topic, so we will take into consideration this for future events also of Swiss LegalTech Association. It has been a great pleasure having you this evening with us, Irina, Lars, and Jörn. Hope to see you soon. And so I would like, before leaving, I would like just to remember that there will be a third event which is already planned, which is part of this Swiss LegalTech Talks 22. The next event will be on September 21st, 2022, Benefit of Automation for Professional Firms. So save the date and follow us on our channel, in particular on LinkedIn channel and on the Swiss LegalTech Association website. Thank you again for being with us tonight. See you soon and take care. Ciao.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank you, Stefano.